Yo, what's up? Back with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an incredible few days. 2 videos ago crossed 1,000 subscribers and I've been seeing a lot of growth and engagement on my channel. I started this channel a number of years ago, not really knowing where it would end up. The videos I started with are still there and a lot of what I was doing back then has fallen away and new things have come, which is what you are looking at and witnessing here. So I just wanted to say thank you for the growth, and I am having a good time. I'd like you to all just know that I'm friendly. I'm not hostile to anyone. I'm not calling for anyone to be hurt. And I'm not here to lie about anyone, any territory or any country whatsoever. I'm just here to look at the things as they develop, interpreting them with a brain up here that I trust, which God has given to me, and deeply analyzing the world events as they take place. Now, we've been having quite a lot of fun recently with Nota and the whole racial scandal that he's gotten himself in. You know, it's been funny to hear somebody speak so confidently about issues that are so controversial and be debated so much, you know, to have so many rebuttals. All of that, if you are lighthearted and you're just a bystander, it's all entertaining, and I've had fun covering the topic. But we go back now to the whole kind of reason why I've been doing these videos. I kind of stumbled into Nota and his scandal, and then a number of people reviewed the video, and I found that I know those people from a number of years ago, and so I decided to just entertain those issues, and fortunately it was a good thing to dive into. But we go back now to the main topic. When I started this, I was talking about the United States, the threat of sanctions, the threat of trade agreements being revoked as South Africa and the Chinese, the communists and BRICS are forming and making their upcoming marriage known to the world. As we officialize our relationship and we make it long term and we define our own currency on this block of the world, there are a number of people who are extremely angry. The US, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and a whole list of white people who are living in South Africa who hate now being moved towards a communist global pole of the world, because we now have 2 superpowers. So in all of this, there's a man by the name of Wyatt. I don't know him, but bit by bit we'll know him. This will be a 2-part video. In this one, we're just going to listen to him, and I'm just going to point out a number of things. And then as we proceed in the next video, we're going to watch together a video on the subject of mass psychosis. We're going to demonstrate to you that human beings and their minds are quite pliable. Human beings can be conditioned. Human beings can be programmed. It happens quite a lot. There are masters of this art. These people used to be wizards, warlocks in society. See? Then with powers rising, the powers that be, the kings, found ways to use propaganda to ply the mind of people, to bend it this way and that, and to have a people believing what the king is saying. And now today, in the current time, we have politicians, their friends, their agents who are out deployed out in the world to go and perform this age-old art of deceiving people's minds. So we're going to be looking at mass psychosis, and we're going to be looking at the real shame about disinformation and propaganda. Because we're now moving to this new block, and so far we've been dating both blocks. We've been dating both guys. It seems now we've been dating long enough to come to a conclusion that the Chinese boyfriend is the one who is more suitable to us long term. And now it's turning out that the American boyfriend that we've been dating has been a possessive psychopath who has now drawn his gun to say, if you leave with that man, you gon' live with me here, we gon' die together in this house. And should you leave, I'm also gonna tell people that you've been a vampire this whole time and you've been flying at night, drinking people's blood. So I'm gonna ruin your reputation. And that's what is actually happening. You see, you know, a slingshot, when it's being pulled. You see, we are currently in a situation where there's a tension being pulled, there's a preparation for a firing of something. And so there are people in the backgrounds cooking, making things available for Donald Trump to make his decisions once we decide to get out the door and enter the car of our Chinese boyfriend and leave. So we're listening to the colonel right here. Let's hear what he has to say.
Following a media statement today from the South African Human Rights Commission, this statement has been posted on Twitter several times in which people are reading something into the statement that's not there. They're misunderstanding, thinking that the South African Human Rights Commission is simply asking for an apology and a small fine and training for Mr. Baloyi over his recent comments. That's not at all. You have to read the whole statement. But I do want to analyze this statement and compare it to some recent statements that have appeared from South African Human Rights Commission and show the disparity of what's going on there. Well, folks, they make it far too easy for President Trump. Each and every day, the bigotry and institutional racism directed against minorities in South Africa just continues, day after day.
Folks, they make it too easy for Donald Trump. Cue here where I said that they are fishing for evidence. There's a cop circling the block and there's evidence currently being manufactured. The cop is busy patrolling the block looking for somebody who is walking sketchy. Him and his fellow cop, Donald Trump, have their eyes on South Africa. They are looking for something that is being done to white people, and somebody else had to now give Trump something because the whole entire US president has offered asylum and he's become a meme as well for his hand being rejected. So now there has to be some redemption. Elon Musk needs some redemption. Donald Trump needs some redemption. Donald Trump needs some receipts for his words where he said there's terrible things happening and probably even far worse. So it seemed like people were manufacturing, they were cooking the receipts that Donald Trump needs right in front of our faces. And I asked myself, wait, man, is Nota just trying to get attention from Elon Musk? Is he fighting back in some way against what Trump is saying and the defunding for HIV? Is Nota constructively engaging this in any way? Could he perhaps be making a mistake by choosing this current moment to make the statements that he's making? Could he be falling into the hands of the cop who is just circling the block looking for some evidence? I started wondering, why is all of this happening together all at the same time? Then, of course, I started realizing something else, which I mentioned, the attack on the Human Rights Commission. If you listen to Colonel Chris Wyatt over there, I've covered Ronaldo and Willem Petzer. You've heard them attack the Human Rights Commission. Cue here now somebody in central Pennsylvania also doing the same.
Unbelievable. How this does not get before the South African Captured Human Rights Commission would be beyond me. They're going after Ronaldo Gouws over an academic video in which he made a point.
All right, you hear that? You hear that. So as things are occurring, there's nothing much really going on except Nota and the white people. Besides that, there's total peace. White people are flying in and out of here and more are coming in to buy cheap property. So this is what is being spoken. And note, bruh, you are in the USA. This is how you are going to end up on Fox News. This is how Donald Trump is going to cite discrimination happening in South Africa by you. It's going to happen this way. There's a US correspondent who is busy being the umbilical cord between South Africa and the United States over there. And so your name is now traveling up the pipe towards the broadcast networks over there. Let's all be ready for it, ladies and gentlemen. It's all under the works. The slingshot is being pulled.
Look no further than the captured South African Human Rights Commission, which appears to be focused on racial revenge, not on Ubuntu. Let me be clear here once again that I do not condone South Africa's suppression of free speech. If people want to be stupid, let them be stupid.
Yo, South Africans, there's a suppression of free speech that is currently going on here. If you are my age, if you've known the country next door, Zimbabwe over there, and the other African countries, if you grew up in South Africa, one thing that you would very much be proud of or grew up knowing that we are having is free speech, a democracy. And if you've been watching news from across the other countries, closest still being Zimbabwe, you'll have heard that the governing power there is democratic, with a lot of corruption and stealing of the votes, etc. And the man who's been in power the longest there has been Robert Mugabe. And his government has been described as a dictatorship where people cannot talk, where people are beat up, etc., where people go missing and whatnot. So if you've known our identity and our pride with democracy and free speech, you'd know that suppression and the curbing of free speech, the beating up of people when they talk, they are arresting, is something that we've thought, oh, no. Those rumors belong next door. But if you listen closely, we are being said to be countries like that. Countries where there's some sort of stronghold over a certain people. We are said to be a country where you can't open a YouTube channel and say what I'm saying right now, Or perhaps I can say it because I'm black. That's the claim that Colonel Chris Wyatt would make, but the free speech enjoyed by the Ronaldo Gouws, man, he sees none of that, man. So let's continue listening over here. You are hearing, apparently here we have no free speech. And this is what the American people, the citizens and the politicians are going to consume hook, line, and sinker. And on that day, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to be proud as a people. The day we witness Donald Trump, and we should already be proud currently, seeing him be a consumer of lies and a retweeter of them and a statement maker of them fresh off the jet when he said South Africa is doing horrible things over here. We should be proud for our levels of intelligence. We should be proud of our knowledge of the truth, our discernment of it. We should be happy to see that, oh my Lord, there are people out there who seem incredibly smart, man, living in this dope country, man, the land of the free, the home of the brave. When you see their minds gripped by lies and propaganda, when you see politicians at the highest levels become tin head, foil helmet, flat earthers, be proud to be a person who knows the truth, because we are going into a time in the future prophesied by the Bible where it is said that people will be seeking the truth, but it won't be near or easy to find. Why? Because it'll be buried by a hectic amount of lies that are manufactured every single day. So keep on listening here. You're gonna see and hear a whole bunch of lies, a whole bunch of mental gymnastics, a whole bunch of, look at this over here, I'm explaining it, I am about to make a point, but before I even finish the point, I'm saying something else, and you think a point is made. Fill in the gaps in your mind. Just be angry, be outraged, be full of negative emotions. Believe that there's a genocide, a taking of people's farms, and no democracy, no free speech.
So long as it's not an incitement to violence or public safety hazard. If it offends someone, if it offends their dignity, well, you can sue them for slander or libel, whichever is appropriate. But let society shun miscreants and ostracize them. It's not the state's job to police speech. A state that feels a need to suppress speech is a weak state and an illegitimate state. Now, following Nota Baloyi's vile, putrid racial denigration of white people on an episode of the Hustler's Corner essay, published on YouTube on Monday, the 17th of February, 2025, the South African Human Rights Commission reported on the 20th of February that they would investigate the incident. Well, that seems reasonable, no? Pretty quick response and a call for investigation. I think that's fair.
Remember, Colonel Chris Wyatt told you, you in the group, you who have liked his video, you who have commented on his video, you who have watched his video, think back. Do not forget quickly. See? Do not be senile. Did he not tell you that the Human Rights Commission is not going to do anything? Well, I've watched a portion of this video and I know what kind of comes next. So let me prepare you for the next slide. The goalposts are now going to shift. Now that the Human Rights Commission is doing something about Nota Baloyi, and the Chris Wyatt had said that nothing is going to happen, and this is a serious sign of the double standards out in South Africa. Now that there's no double standards appearing, they're going to create a new double standard in the future. Nota and what potential punishment could come of him is limited in the Human Rights Commission. There's a bigger punishment to be had in the criminal courts, tried as a person who's committed a verbal offense, who has harassed and injured people by his words, the crime being crimen injuria. So the Human Rights Commission here says this is the punishment that we can give him. If people want to take it a step further, they can go to the police station and open another kind of case over there for a certain crime there called crimen injuria. That could get him arrested. That could get him sentenced and placed in jail like Vicky Momba. That is open. All we need is Ronaldo Gouws, Mr. Colonel Chris Wyatt's friend, to go and open the case. So far, he has failed to even contact the Human Rights Commission and open a case. The Human Rights Commission eventually opened the case of their own will, of their own accord. So now Mr. Ronaldo Gouws just needs to go to a police station and open a case, and we can get the ball rolling. But there's already predictions being made that the police are not going to do anything about it. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the negative emotions that we are going to be dealing properly with in the next video. As I share with you, you who are fans, followers, loyalists of Mr. Chris Wyatt, you are his victims. And with your help, he's going to victimize the black people of this country by lying and mischaracterizing them, by calling for funds to be taken away, by bringing a whole great amount of suffering. But we hope that our Chinese boyfriend will sort things for us and put us in the right place, because we do need help as an African country, small as we are, governed for so long by these toxic boyfriends like these. So listen now as we continue playing the video to how he's going to just quickly sweep past the Human Rights Commission and what they are effectively doing and the process they are following, which is correct by the book. He wants them to do something else and follow a different process that really doesn't exist. They are doing what they should be doing. And he's going to lie about the crimen injuria. Then everything else will follow. I won't be talking too much hereafter. Looking forward to part 2 of the video.
But pay close attention to the way in which the South African Human Rights Commission mentions the Baloyi case versus Hank's Old Irish Pub and the Ronaldo Gouws cases. I'd also include the Knobs and Kesey case, but those media statements appear to have been scrubbed from the South African Human Rights Commission website. I couldn't find them.
They've been scrubbed.
And a statement from the 20th of February. South African Human Rights Commission is aware of an episode on the Hustler's Corner essay published on YouTube on Monday, 17 February 2025, where Mr. Nota Baloyi made several statements expressing his views on white people. The commission confirms that its Gauteng provincial office has opened its own accord investigation on this matter. The commission also confirms receipt of several complaints against Mr. Baloyi. That statement, which started the investigation, was followed up on the 24th of February. South African Human Rights Commission will institute an equality court proceeding against Mr. Nota Baloyi for alleged hate speech. Well, that sounds like a good plan, right? All right, let's see if they're going to go after him. Did you watch the clips? Check this out.
White women cannot carry births the same way black women can. They're inferior in that way. We're dealing.
Maybe this is his choice of editing and a choice of storytelling, but I was expecting that he's just going to go straight to the facts. We've seen the videos. Maybe there's a bit more outrage, that he wants to stir up before he goes into, you got to whip up your crowd. When you're a hype man, when your crowd is relaxing a bit too much and they're not going to feel the beat of the speaker. So you need to get them standing. So this is what's happening. But let's just stick close to the details. His swinging this way and that, his zigzagging, his moving of the goalposts.
We're dealing with the weakest whites that the world has ever seen. I want to explain this so that people don't think that, I'm being racist by saying whites are inferior genetically. We are at the echelon of that. Whites are a step below because they've also got Neanderthal DNA. Unfortunately, by the strictest definition of what a human being is, white people are just below human beings. You are negotiating with an animal, a wild dog that you're trying to train to be tamed, to be upobi. You cannot expect the same behavior of a human being that you're expecting of a dog. We need to start understanding what we're dealing with, because we're not dealing with a who, we're dealing with a what. When we deal with this what of savages, because that's their history, everywhere in the world white people have gone and progressed, they've progressed because of savagery. Don't you get it? No, they don't get it. They will never get it. They're not the same level of human beings we are. So we need to start treating them like infants, taking these white people, teaching them our culture, teaching them how to be civilized human beings the same way.
Hey, Nota, you're going to Fox News, man. This is how we will look back and say it happened, and it is happening.
We are.
Pretty vile, eh? I'd say that's pretty nasty. And it just goes on and on with this guy. Now, this decision follows utterances made by Mr. Baloyi on the 17th of February during an episode of The Hustler's Corner, published on YouTube, where he made several statements expressing his views on white people. Nota expressed his views on white people? Seriously? This was more like watching the SS rolling into town and Heinrich Himmler giving a class on racial supremacy. His views on white people? In their media statements,
The SS and Heinrich Himmler, the SS, he's talking about Nazi soldiers. He's talking about the Nazis as a collective. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, how dangerous it is to have somebody compare you with all the way a Hitler? Do you know what that characterization of you does? Do you know what that characterization of you does? Steve Bannon just hailed Hitler. Elon Musk hailed Hitler.
There's a current normalization of extremism that is taking place on an almost daily, an almost hourly basis in America right now. And Steve Bannon may be the tip of the spear of this particular movement, trying to normalize white supremacy, trying to normalize illiberal ideas, trying to normalize anti-democratic activity as though it's just a normal course of politics in America.
There's a man here on YouTube who has decided to turn around away from all of that and look at South Africa and say, hey, look, examples of Nazis over there, by some vague comparison, which is taken from the statement of the Human Rights Commission. So from reading the Human Rights Commission to visuals of Nazis, you're being flooded with negative emotions. Wake up in the name of Jesus. As a black man, I can tell you testimonies about occultic powers. I've seen people under the powers, the workings of real magic. To have your mind owned and controlled by somebody else, it's a great and amazing thing. Do not be a victim of it. Watch out.
South African Human Rights Commission typically posts the following at the bottom. The Commission emphasized the critical importance of fostering a society rooted in non-discrimination while actively promoting and safeguarding the right of equality for all individuals, irrespective of their race. Except, in practice, they do not. In the 24 February 2025 statement, the South African Human Rights Commission states that for calling white people dogs that need to be disciplined, that they're racially inferior, that white women couldn't bear children properly, and so on, this is what the Commission is looking for. The Commission's prayers will include a public apology, diversity and sensitivity training, community service, and a monetary fund, but not limited to these.
Mr. Chris Wyatt, perhaps you were expecting a lynching. Perhaps you were expecting for Nota to be dragged and put inside a prison without any registration of his imprisonment, because we live in this barbaric society. You'd want the commission to do what to Nota? The commission can only go so far with certain things. If you want Nota to be taken off the street immediately, that can happen because we are a democracy, unfortunately for you. Nota has to have an opportunity to defend himself before we get ahead of things, before he's punished, etc. I think Vicky Momberg went through a process which Nota will undergo. So what is this huge hurry? Are you quickly projecting towards the future because you haven't explained to your audience as yet the lie that you told them previously, that the Human Rights Commission is not going to do anything? You're speeding past, you're throwing smoke grenades, smoke screens. What are you doing, sir?
But not limited to these. Complainants who seek other remedies may open a criminal injury case with the South African Police Service. Penny Sparrow and Vicky Momberg's lives were destroyed over words posted on social media and a shock-induced racial tirade that landed Momberg in prison as a convicted felon for her words. And the South African Human Rights Commission thinks that an apology, a tiny fine, and classes will reform the perverted worldview of Baloyi. Now, folks, you may make the point that the South African Human Rights Commission did say individuals
everybody in his group. What does he think the remedy is? Could you ask him? Should he be pulled out into the field and shot at the back of the head? What is the adequate punishment for Nota Baloyi? If he is an unrepentant racist, Mr. Colonel Wyatt, who decides that he's never going to change, there's absolutely nothing you can do to him. Neither a 20-year prison sentence would change that. There are certain things that you're just going to have to deal with and accept, and teach your audience to also accept and live with. We live with and accept the fact that there are unrepentant racists, skinheads, the ugliest people on the face of the earth. We accept Steve Bannon and Elon Musk over there hailing Hitler. We know what all of this means. We're not asking for anybody to do something immediately egregious to you, something super swift. We're just letting things play out. This is God's earth. The Lord is God. If God allows a Satan and fallen angels to still exist, and there's a way by which they are able to interact with this earth and influence people and people to cooperate with them, while such a huge thing is a possibility and it's something that God wills, there are things that we just are not even going to try to stop or govern. You understand? We understand free will as it is from the Lord. We understand that even Lucifer sits and he rules currently this earth and its influences. We see the men who are influenced by Lucifer. We see them standing there. We see them doing it in front of camera. You know, we people who are patient, who understand freedom here on earth and in heaven from the Lord, we just watch. But you, Mr. Wyatt, you come on, and when people commit fouls, you are calling for swift hanging. You know, let this person be made anathema very quickly. And you get ahead of yourself and you make mistakes and you claim that the South African Human Rights Commission is not going to do anything, and they do. And when they do and you're reading the statements to give updates to your people, you breeze quickly through things and you prophesy what is to come tomorrow. But your yesterday's prophecies have failed to materialize today. Oh, you know, growing up Christian with parents who pretty much watched quite a lot of televangelists, you know, pastors right across the globe, African and in the United States. I have seen false prophets and false prophecies many times from white men who look like you and black men who look like myself. Being a fake false prophet is something everyone of every color, of every hair color, silver, Caucasian, false prophet, black with dreadlocks, false prophet, blonde with blue eyes, Caucasian, false prophet, short, fat, yellow bone black man, false prophet. I've seen all of that. So I'm not trying to be damaging. I wish to explain something about my mind as I've grown as a black child and being a black man right now. You know, Mr. Wyatt, I'm being honest about this. Black people have a gullibility. We fall very much for the charms of white men. What white men say, we take it, we like it, we love it, because we're really trusting towards white people. So a white man in a black person's mind, people are looking up towards you white people in the same way that they are in the United States over there. You see, you are these tall standing white men and there are these Negroes, the children of the slaves over there. You know how black people react to you even there. It's exactly the same over here. I'm redrawing the picture to say, look, stand tall above me. I want to show you how I normally look at you, how we normally look at you as black people. You are a tall figure. You're a white man. You look like Father Christmas. You shine in the light. What you say, we will believe it, right? Very easy. Right now, you are engaged in something that is extremely disappointing to me as a black person, because you are the people who are trustworthy in the way our minds like to interpret you. You are the trustworthy people, you know? Yeah, we'll put away our past historic issues. We who are living today are living on. Black people who have jobs with white employers are giving their love and their dedication to the white men and women they are working for. You are people that we rely on and we trust. So for me to be looking at you now and doing a video about you, reviewing you, listening to the things that you are saying, I'm viewing you not only as an analyst currently, as somebody who's giving commentary, but I'm looking at you from the angle of my inner child. I'm looking at this sad, disappointing, lying white man, bro, who has potential to speak truths, and his truth would sound much more pronounced, exponentially much larger. But you choose to stick to the lying patterns of an average taxi driver, bruh, like an average scammer on these streets right here, bruh. And that is really, really, really disappointing. I just wanted to give you that take from my inner child. I understand that you are engaged in mental mind bending. You are programming a group of people. You are filling them with some negative emotions, and we're going to be dealing with that in the next video. Let's continue.
Can take the man to the court for criminal injury. But we know that will fail, as the defense will be that he did not injure anyone by name. He didn't call anyone out. It's just a general statement. The South African Human Rights Commission is supposed to uphold the dignity of all South Africans and stand in the way of racists who undermine dignity. Yet when they're needed most, they are suspect. The tame wording of the South African Human Rights Commission's media statements over perhaps the most vile, racist public statements from a public figure, a music producer, in decades in South Africa stands in stark contrast to the ill, shabby treatment that they meted out against falsely accused Hank's Old Irish Pub and Ronaldo Gouws in the immediate aftermath of both of those incidents. December 7th, 2022. The South African Human Rights Commission says it will request a review of the reserve right of admission policy following an incident at Hank's Old Irish Pub where a 25-year-old black customer was allegedly racially profiled. Tambiso Danka was the alleged victim of institutional racism at the pub in Bree Street last week when he was barred from entering the establishment because he was a black person and without a white escort. Now notice the detail they give there. They give no detail in the most vile and putrid racist rant from Mr. Baloyi. But here they give detail. And this was a false accusation.
Most vile, putrid. I'm going to be borrowing your wording to describe the most vile, putrid, twisting and retelling of the facts to suit a narrative.
False accusation, a setup. They didn't know that at the time, but notice how they go into detail here. Also, they call it institutional racism. It's a pub. It's not an institution. The South African Human Rights Commission is an institution. There's no institutional racism at a private pub. There may be racism, but it's not institutional. Let's jump forward to 20 June 2024. The South African Human Rights Commission will today institute proceedings at the Equality Court in Gaborone against Mr. Ronaldo Gouws, a member of parliament, for the alleged racial utterances relating to online media posts. In the video, Mr. Gouws allegedly calls for the killing of black people using extremely offensive and derogatory language. This is explicit content, initially published on his YouTube channel in March 2010, was archived despite being deleted and has resurfaced, revealing behavior that is incompatible with the principles of dignity and equality enshrined in South Africa's law. Isn't that what Mr. Baloyi just did? Wasn't it extremely offensive, derogatory language? And isn't it today not something he expressed as a youth 15 years ago? Isn't that incompatible with the dignity and equality enshrined in South African law? Now, in the footage, Mr. Gouws allegedly made the following statement. There's a couple things I want to say. Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Notice how they published this. Of course, they put characters in so you can't see the words. But they went into great detail, which they didn't do with Mr. Baloyi. Now, why is that? And let's take finally the case of Nobs Mkhize, who, of course, is famous for harassing, insulting.
Hey, I've listened to great expositors, preachers, honest ones. I've listened to amazing speeches. I've listened to a great many TED Talks. I am a lover of film, writing. And so we may be different people. We may hear somebody different. According to my way of hearing, this man jumps around quite a lot. And I'm talking again from my inner child and speaking as a black man. My expectation of him is that he should be smart and capable of pointing out one thing, sticking to it, making his case. And if he's got 4 points, he will be just as good at making point. He'll be just as dwelling, just as detailed as the first one. But he has to be clear, precise, informative on one point before he moves to many. So for me, he's moving quite quickly. And I know people who talk quickly to be scammers, not experts. You know the phrase, measure 10 times, drill once? Mr. Wyatt here is measuring once, drilling 10 times, showing you a statement and then speaking, giving 10 times the commentary than what the actual statement was. If there's a crime, you'll find it in the statement. You won't have to manufacture it after the last full stop. If there's something bad that you can point to, if there's a smoking gun, it's there. You don't have to give testimony of a smoking gun if the gun is right there and it is just blown gunpowder inside the whole room. So, what you're doing, how you're explaining, looks to me like exactly what Ronaldo Gouws does. And I challenged that in the video that I did. Cue here.
Yes, not doctored, not AI, a real video from the South African Human Rights Commission saying that we should treat different race groups differently. Now, isn't that in its own?
I was asking the question, you who are students of Ronaldo Gouws, when he's sending you through the subject matter, when he's sending you through the knowledge base, when he's going line by line, does he actually read lines as they are? Does he say they said what they said, or does he say they said something else? When he says listen to the video and they say the constitutional court accepts that people are different and offenses are different and it treats people different, when he now pivots from the Constitutional Court and he goes now to hammer the Human Rights Commission for what the Constitutional Court has upheld, how do you feel when a magician is just guiding your brain into the gutter? So let's carry on. He's speaking very quickly. Maybe he's talking to a crowd of people who are ultra intelligent, who get it all like this. And maybe I'm the slow one. I may admit that if I am, but you judge for yourself. Is this somebody who's come with definite evidence that supports his claims? Or is he somebody who is coming with more claims and leaving his evidence to speak very little? Because evidence should speak the most, if you have it.
And threatening passengers on a flight to Cape Town. She was abusive towards colored flight attendants, insulting their dignity over and over again, physically assaulted flight attendants on the flight. She endangered the entire passenger safety by behaving like a fool. And her famous line, of course, which is caught on video, is, "I'm an ANC, bitch."
And Mr. Chris Wyatt, I'm not convinced that there's anything that you care about the colored woman who got offended there. I think you need an angle. You need something to constantly say. You need a thread that is never ending. You need your well, what metaphor can I give? Dog and a bone. You see, you're looking to for something to put your teeth in and never let go of, right? And that is the whole Human Rights Commission and Ronaldo Gouws beef that you have, and this whole attack on the Human Rights Commission. Besides that, there will be these stories that will come, that will fall in coincidentally, like the notas, whatever else you are looking for that may appear tomorrow or next week, Thursday. You will find those things, but absent of these things, you already have a bone that you're not going to let go of. And that is the Human Rights Commission. If you want something to say about South Africa and you're lacking something else, it'll be the Human Rights Commission on a consistent basis. And then when something comes, you'll speak about that. And when that fizzles out, you go back to the Human Rights Commission. That is what's keeping you relevant. As far as I'm seeing, I'll look at some more of your videos, but I'm not convinced to do it because you really had an opportunity to be a big white man who is right, well, and honest. My black gullible brain would have promoted you and elevated you further, but you've lost the opportunity by looking very black, very sketchy, very ordinary, like what I'm just used to on a daily basis. And I'm expecting you to just be the tourist who's just here to enjoy, love the things, be curious about things. Not somebody who is a clever here, who knows things and is telling you the directions there and there.
See, bitch. Throwing around her weight as an apparatchik, as a member of the government, as a member of the ANC, as a cater. Is this compatible with South Africa's constitution? Does this respect the principles of dignity and equality? No, it doesn't. Also, why are those statements scrubbed from the South African Human Rights Commission website? They did announce that they were going to investigate her at the end of December, and here we are at the end of February and no action. But already just a couple of days after, Baloyi, because of the outrage of what he said so racially vile and disgusting, they had to take action, but the action is going to be, a fine, an apology, diversity training. If you think that Donald Trump is misinformed about what's happening in South Africa, then you're delusional. You're absolutely delusional. And I tell this to all.
Misinformation. He mentions misinformation, and we've been speaking about in this video. So he's an informant of Donald Trump, and he says that Donald Trump is being informed of the truth in his version. You understand? You understand? You understand? Let's hear what he has to say about Donald Trump being correctly informed.
All liberal whites, I tell this to all people on the far left, all people on the far right. There's more than a dual standard at work here. This is racial oppression. In all these cases. In the two cases, Hanks did nothing wrong. They were set up by race hustlers. And nothing came of it. They were never punished for it. But Hanks nearly went out of business because of it. And the reputation was tarnished by the South African Human Rights Commission. Ronaldo Gouws made an educational video 15 years ago, which was intentionally used to target him when he went to government. No investigation into the criminal activity of those involved in altering that video. None. And no interest by the South African Human Rights Commission. Done and dusted as far as they're concerned. Yet they're still dementedly taking him to the Equality Court. Why is that? What is going on at the South African Human Rights Commission? They don't seem to care about equality and dignity. Only one side of the equation. What say you, South Africa? Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, watch out for gang leaders. Watch yourself. Don't join a gang and not realize that you've joined a gang. Ladies and gentlemen, let me see you quite soon in part 2 of this video where we will be looking at mass psychosis and how to get a whole bunch of people's minds sick and convinced of lies, the techniques, and how effective it is. Pray for the white people, ladies and gentlemen. This is the deception that we've seen in the churches here by these mega pastors who have been using manipulation, smooth talk, charisma, and occultic powers to really dig your brain in and turn you into an idiot. We have seen people calling Bushiris the papa. I'm telling you, there's a version of that in the white world. There are white men who can capture white minds, young people like that, even old minds. Capture you anytime, any day. Magic, the occult, powers of manipulation, they work on anybody who is alive. And watch out not to be crossfaded into a gang herd mentality. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.